ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Registered Ranching Podcast. Tucker Brown and Willie Wardle live behind the mics with you right now. And it's Saturday morning. We haven't done many on Saturday mornings, but always have to start with the classy ranch fuel. Got to get the cowboy energy.
I'm getting really good at this.
You're getting good at it?
Do you see how I angled the mic down?
Yeah.
I gave the ranch fuel the attention it deserved.
Wow. Yeah. I've got the blueberry pomegranate this morning. That's my favorite. And you have your favorite.
The blackberry lemonade.
Still the favorite?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Until they switch it up.
Yeah. Real Cowboy Energy, zero sugar, only 15 calories on this one. So check it out, folks. Use code Tucker Brown. Get you a discount. Excited for the guest today. Willie, we're just a weekend before the sale, and finally got this. I think people question whenever we got Lanham on the podcast. They're like, well, how'd you get him to talk? They might say the same thing.
With Myles?
No, you can't say it.
Oh, did I ruin it?
Yeah.
Kilometers.
No, miles and kilometers, yeah.
I meant to say kilometers, sorry.
No, but our guest today is a very decorated horse trainer, ranch rodeo cowboy, and grew up on a ranch, moved out west Texas. Lived there for a while, just had his first baby.
That's right.
I met him for the first time.
Joseph. So, excited to have. Happens to be my cousin. Are we the close? No, Emily's closest to me.
No, because I'm older than Emily.
We're closest. We're the closest in age cousins.
That's right.
How about that? Hey, Myles, welcome to the Registered Ranching Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. Glad to have you on. So, Myles already said it. You're a well-decorated horse trainer, and feels like you and Lanham Brown were the ones to kind of bring the horse training into the Brown family.
Yep.
Kind of change it from what Rob Brown had it, as far as breeding those talented horses into showing them. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, we kind of just caught the bug at a similar time, and went from maybe more of like a rope horse type of a horse to where now, not that they can't be roped on, but more of a cow horse type bred horse is what we've kind of gone to or tried to go to.
And it's been neat seeing y'all combine those, the old genetics, the Blue Eddie Hancocks with some of these newer lines of some ranch. What are some of these new lines that you are excited about in your horses?
Oh, like I've got a 4-year-old by Woody B. Tough. It's out of a daughter. He's an Eddie Hancock. Those out of a daughter are Smooth at Heart, and those are both ranch studs that Granddad Rob Brown had, and so he's by Woody B. Tough on the top side, but he goes back to some of the original horses that Great Granddad started with in 1940. It's all the same stuff, and he fortunately came out gray, so he has kind of our trademark gray that we've had a lot of gray horses, but he's a Woody B. Tough, and I'm pretty high on that horse. Can really run and stop, and
you still have him now?
Yeah, he's
what do you call him?
I call him Bamboo.
Bamboo.
Yep.
Are you showing him this weekend or this week?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to show anything here. My wife is, but I'm just going to help. Yep.
Well, let's talk about the horse show real quick. You and the other cousins got a lot more more involved this year in helping prepare the event, working on the event this year more than ever before. But this event has really become one of a kind, it feels like. Is there another event similar to this in the horse show industry?
Not that I've been to.
Yeah.
No, I think it's an original. You just hope it's an original that everybody likes.
Yeah.
What I've kind of said is we got to get 5 of them under our belt, and then we can start having some opinions that have some weight.
Sure.
It's easier this time already. Like, it's so much easier this time than last time. Last year was just, we didn't know what to expect. And,
yeah. How much?
Yeah. This year, we at least know that it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, we know what chaos, yeah.
How many is it now?
Pardon?
How many show? What show is this now?
Well, this is 2.0 as far as the horse sale
Okay.
with it in the spring. So it's the second one in the sense of it being what it
Everything
currently
together.
is. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Now they've had the horse show. I mean, just probably six years.
Okay. I was gonna say.
I wasn't really a part of the horse show deal, but last year when we decided to make it a weekend or not a weekend, but
An event.
an event. Yeah.
So last year was kind of the first year that it was formatted the way that you guys did.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I was trying to do the math in my head. Because Casey Mitchell won, I think, the first one, and he had.
I think that was in 2020.
Okay, I was trying to do the math.
It seemed like I saw that somewhere. So this would be the fifth.
Crazy it was that long ago.
Yeah. How long has the spring bull sale been a thing? 10 years? 12 years?
I think this might be 10. It's 9 or 10.
Yeah. So
should
we
know
got
that.
5 years of just the bull sale. Then we did 5 years almost of just a horse show.
Yep.
And now we're kicking off.
adding on.
Yeah.
And on the
Takes
whole
us
of
about 5 years to come up with a new idea.
it. Just to add to it.
Well, I feel like you guys have a pretty good idea now. 'Cause it's
Well, I
pretty
also
fun.
wanted to throw in there, like, Myles, why should folks want to listen to you today? And I think success is a good reason, because you've had quite a bit of success here in the last 5 years. I'm not saying that it takes you about 5 years,
About
just like
5
you
years.
said, yeah. But you're a 2-time Open Snaffle Bit Futurity finalist, a Level 1 and Limited Open Snaffle Bit Futurity champion, a 4-time top hand at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. Seems like you got that one figured out.
Yeah. The Fort Worth's been good to us. But, sometimes I think that once you've won it one time, it subconsciously it does give you an edge.
They got their eye on you.
Yeah, if you just the judges pay attention, and if you'll just go out there and do the Ironman deal, don't have a major mess up. It just it traps them into giving it to you, and it's great. I'm very appreciative, but
Yeah.
there's been some of them that you win and those really feel good because you really did something special. And then you win some of them and you go, well, I appreciate it.
You only say that when you've won more. Like when you've won that much, that's when.
Well,
yeah, that win didn't just feel as good,
Well, I mean, it's more about. I mean, it's always more about pleasing myself with my performance.
Yeah.
And if I'm not
Competing
pleased, I don't
against
really
yourself.
care what anybody else has to think about it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm talking about. Like if I wasn't pleased with something that I did, and then you get recognized for it,
Makes sense.
it's kind of like a second place belt buckle. not really that interesting.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah,
Nobody wants that.
What about? Do you want to talk about kind of the this past Fort Worth Ranch Rodeo?
Yeah,
Because-
that was pretty incredible. We had
Yeah.
a phenomenal team. Jack Kissel rode the bronc for us, and then Nick Agurin, our new family member that we think a lot of. Lane Strebeck, married to our cousin,
Yep.
Laurie, Bella Strebeck. He was on the team. Lanham,
Never heard of her.
yep, some girl named Lanham. and me. Is that it? I think that's the team, right? I don't think I missed.
Ben,
And Ben McCartney, another cousin. So,
I do love that it was all family.
Yeah.
Jack being the bronc rider, not a family member.
that's part of
but
Ben married into. He's part of the Brown family that Ben McCartney married into.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was family.
basically
It was.
somebody's family.
But it is cool that it was, that it was all family in the event.
Yeah.
And you ran away with it. Yeah, just talk
Yeah.
into that. I mean,
Well, I think the first night. Well, I tell you, probably what made the biggest difference. I think that was my 10th or 11th year consecutive to be in that ranch rodeo.
Flex.
And you have to be in the top 3, like about the last 7 years maybe. You have to be in the top 3 of the rodeo to get invited back.
uh-huh.
And so we've always done pretty good because we keep coming back.
Yeah.
But we've never won the rodeo. We've won quite a few events. We've got the events give us pair spurs or a bridle or whatever. We've got a pretty good collection of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But we've never won the rodeo. We've won trailers. We've won performance champions. We've won trailers, but
Just not, and it's a 2-night rodeo. So
It's
by
two-night
you saying
rodeo.
you've won a performance, like you've won one night.
Yep.
But you never
Just
won
not
the whole deal.
thing.
Right. We've never quite got it put together. And we've come close, you know. But we had a bronc rider that, he wanted to go around the first night. Really good. Made a really good ride on a rank horse, a sun fishing, ducking, and diving horse. And then my wife won the first go of the barrels. And then I think we won 2 or 3 events. But probably the biggest game changer was just getting started right. We got started right both nights. We got sorted clean in the doctrine, and I tracked them till I kind of got them lined out and roped them and tried to set it up. And old Nick just hammer them on that hillside.
Yeah.
And when you go in there and you win that first event, like with authority,
Give you some
it
momentum.
just set the pace. And then it was like we couldn't really mess up.
Yeah.
It was.
But it was a snowball rolling downhill.
It was. I missed the first night, but the second night, everybody that I was sitting around was just like, "Oh, what do you know? They won again. Oh,
Yeah,
they won again.
incredible.
No, they won again.
We had to set a money earning record for that rodeo because I think we won maybe 7 out of 12 rounds or something.
Yeah, it's pretty
We won
impressive.
3 averages and came close. I think we were second in the average in the bronc riding and second in the average or third in the average in the barrel race. I can't remember, but it was really
fun
fun.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really. It's always fun to win.
Yeah, it was fun
Doesn't
to watch.
really matter
I mean, yeah,
what it is, but.
Makes
And then
me
my
feel
wife
fun.
ran barrels on the same horse that I was ran rodeoing on, so we had to raise stirrups and drop stirrups and do that. But that horse really is a good horse.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
He's a little high-headed and he's a little hot. He's probably not for everybody, but he is a very you can make a hand on him at whether you're kind of running barrels or roping
Yeah.
a cow or whatever. He's a fast-footed cowie.
And he ended up
Good
doing
yield.
pretty well himself for the ranch rodeo. He got himself an award.
Yep, top horse. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 3rd year in a row that the top horse has been from here at the rancher.
RAB.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that.
Now, I have a lot of people get confused, and for good reason, with us having 17 cousins.
Yeah.
Which ones are my brothers? Which ones are my cousins?
Oh yeah.
Let's go back there because you lived on the ranch for a while. You lived
Yep.
here in Throckmorton on the
I was
ranch.
born in Graham.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in Graham. I didn't know that actually.
I was born in Graham. That's correct. I think I was supposed to be born in Albany.
Really?
I think that's what they told me, but then ended up the doctor wasn't there or something and went to Graham.
Hustled over to Graham.
That may be. I may have just made all that up. But
I'll believe it.
I was,
I
just a
was
baby.
born in Graham.
I wasn't born yet, but
And you've got a few siblings.
Yeah, I'm the middle of 7. Middle of 7.
That's a full house.
Yeah, it was, yes. It was. You had to be prepared to defend yourself.
To defend yourself.
You did.
am I
You
forgetting?
had to act out to get any attention.
Is Griff older than you?
Griff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
3
So
years,
what?
maybe? Yeah,
Ike,
3 years.
your 2 sisters, you,
Yeah.
Griff, and then Nara. I guess that is 7.
It goes,
sisters.
Amy was born in
Three
80.
sisters.
Amy, my oldest sister, born in
Okay.
87. R.A.'s born in 89. Griffin in 91. I was born in 94. Lydia was born in 96. And Amanda was born in 98.
Okay.
Ike was born in 05. If that's not right, it's real close. Real close.
Well, I don't know it, so I'm not
Yeah.
gonna play you out on
Who's
it.
going to argue with you?
Yeah.
They're your brothers and sisters.
But y'all moved. So,
Middle seven.
how old were you when you moved? Probably like 3 or something. 4.
No, so we lived in Colorado, like from when I was born here. We moved back to Colorado. My dad managed a ranch there. And that didn't work out. Like we were there maybe a year, probably when I was probably from 4 to 5 or something we were there. Then came back. They still had the trailer house on the hill
Yep.
full of kids
Yep.
out west of the headquarters there. And they were looking, and found that found that place in the Panhandle there, east of Stinnett, Texas, and got that bought. And so I think I was 5 and had just turned 6, or I was 6 and had just turned 7, something like that when we moved up there. Yeah.
When you moved to Stinnett.
When we moved, yep. And we took the trailer house that we lived in here and moved up there with 6 kids in it, because Ike wasn't born yet. He's an 05 model. And parked it out there, and the house that came with the ranch was a big, nice house, but it needed remodeling. So we lived in that trailer house
With 8 of
right next to a big house for several years. Like, it took several years. And
Get it fixed
but
up.
we were used to it.
Yeah.
You know, we had 3 boys in a bedroom, 3 girls in a bedroom, and mom and dad. Woo! And
You did have
if
to
I
figure
remember
something.
right, us 3 boys, of course, we were little. Well, we all slept in a queen bed.
Yeah, that's why you're tougher than most.
That's probably true. That's probably true. I absorbed a lot of abuse, and I just abused them.
Yeah. And now, your mom and dad still live in Stinnett.
That's correct. As do I. I live there on the same ranch in Stinnett, and yeah, I hadn't made it very far.
Right down the hill.
Right down the hill.
You do have a pretty cool house. I remember when we came during the
thank you.
fires.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed. Like,
Yeah,
dang,
that's-
this is a cool spot.
It was a year ago that those fires happened.
That's right.
That those wildfires. Let's talk about that.
Well, the Celebration of Champions is an NRCHA show that has the world's greatest horseman with it, so on and so forth. It's a big show. And we were coming home from that. Jaylee, my wife, and I had, we just found out we were pregnant within that month or whatever. And we were, I think we were in somewhere around Clarendon, headed home on a Monday. And Mom called and said, "It's there's one headed our way, and it's the real deal." And so we're still well over an hour away. And so, you speed up a little bit, but but that fire, the wind was blowing probably 70, maybe gusts of 80. It was really getting it. And where I live, at least that particular spot, the soil's pretty sandy. And so for Panhandle country especially, it's tall grass country. Lots of little blue stem, big blue stem. Go ahead and have a lot of grass grow. It's not just a little buffalo grass like you'll see a lot of places, the Panhandle. And then we're known for our low humidity, for Texas. Like, it's very, very dry climate there.
So the perfect
it was
combo for a
it
wildfire.
had it going on. It was just a tinder box. And like some of those pastures that burn, we probably haven't grazed hard enough in the 20 years plus that we've been there. And some of them had some grass that had been in there for 20 years, I'm sure. Just a lot of fuel. And there's a line in there it started on a ranch that we leased just west of the house. A power line pole fell over. And I know exactly where that is. I run yearlings over there every summer. Actually take care of some yearlings for Jody Bella, our uncle, on this place. And that's where the fire that they call Smokehouse Creek fire started. And it's short grass country. It's like buffalo grass, old prairie dog town, kind of a feel to it. That's what it looks like. By the time it got to 7 miles, probably 6 miles, farther east from that west wind, then it hit that sandier country where it hit that fuel, and that's when that thing really, like, it was moving.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden it started. I read somewhere where it was self-igniting 2 football fields ahead of itself. Ooh. That's how hot it was. It's just a rolling inferno.
Where was that? And y'all were trying to get cattle out of the way. I remember seeing the video.
Well, that was the second day. There wasn't time the first day.
Okay.
And I wasn't home yet. When I got there, they had already got a dozer and defended the front of my folks' house.
Yeah.
Our neighbor, Jerry Keith, got on a maintainer there, kind of dozer, 1957 model or something.
Nice.
Got in there, and he give it all he had, and I think
the Lord
actually
forgive
burned his
neighbors.
arm in the process. Like,
Wow.
he was in it. But we were able to kind of steer it away. But like for those that hadn't been around fires, this is the edge of the fire that he's defending against. Like the front of the fire,
Gone.
if you'd have been in front of it, you would have died. But the edges are still dangerous. But as that wind blows, those edges just move at a slower pace. They can still do a lot of damage, and you have to get control of the edges. But I think a lot of times, people you talk about doing stuff with fire, and they think you're in front of that fire, and you're like, well, we got close. It almost burns up, but we stopped. No, the main fire had already gone on. It's just the edge of that fire.
Yeah, we're just moving 2 football fields.
Right. But then if the wind changes,
Oh,
the edge of the fire becomes the front of the fire. And that's what's so dangerous. So like the next day, we fought fire. And that's another fire started farther south and west. And it burned through a little part of Stinnett there and killed a couple people.
Mm-hmm.
And burned down the south end of the ranch. And
Is that the one that went through those heifers?
no, that was the first one.
Okay,
First one
day.
killed a bunch of heifers on a Monday, I believe. And then Tuesday, we get a call. Another one started. Right. And of course, the fire for Monday is still burning. I think it burned basically all of Roberts County. And, it was still going. It's just that we had got ours put out,
Mm-hmm.
And we were far enough west that actually we were lucky that they started close enough to our boundary that they were only a mile or a mile and a half wide as they burned across us. So we were able, when it comes through, you can try and get cattle to the side of it if you have time, if you have enough heads up.
Yep.
Whereas like the counties
Further east.
of us, they didn't. At one time, I guess it was 100 miles wide.
Yeah, you can't get around that.
There's nowhere to go. You just have to hope that you tromped out a feed ground
Yep.
those cattle can get to, and it won't kill them. Yeah.
Which there were a lot of cattle and horses that were killed in that wildfire.
Burned some.
We just saw 1,500 square miles
1,500 square miles.
were burned in that.
It's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
How big that
Over
is.
1 million acres. And it's not like this is forest, California forest
Yeah.
where very few people live. This is
No.
Grass
It's just ranch land.
Yeah.
ranch land
It's
and
just
going
ranch
through
land,
town. But that video,
And tall grass ranch land. Like I said, they're close to the Canadian River.
mm-hmm.
We're north of the Canadian River, in the breaks. That's basically this fire run right down through there. It's just
Describe
there's
that
a lot
video
of
that
grass.
Jaylee got of y'all moving those cows, those black cows. You remember that video she got from the truck?
I don't know. I don't know that I do.
There's
But
a huge stack of smoke that's in the background.
Oh,
and
the fire looks massive.
It looks like an Armageddon kind of scene.
Looks like the world is ending, and y'all can see y'all. But she's got the siren going.
yeah, that
Y'all
was
were
on
moving
Tuesday.
cows. Yeah.
Yeah, we pulled up there on the phone. I had Amanda, one of my sisters, with me in a feed pickup. We went to the one pasture and we called those cows what we thought was out of the way, and ended up being correct. That fire come on by them, wind out of the southwest, and then I had my wife bring horses in a trailer. And then I had her stay in the pickup. Amanda and I both got on a horse. And by the time that I went and got around of a bunch, we had about 100 and something yearlings. They're, maybe a 1,000-acre pasture. And we feed them there. We have 4 or 5 self-feeders set up. And when we feed them there, well, they're pretty comfortable hanging out around the feed ground, and I think they were just some cuts from wean calves we raised and from multiple different ranches. There's about 100 head of them there, heifers and steers mixed, and they had some flesh on them, and they didn't have, the longer they eat, the less wind they're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got around and started getting those cattle, trying to get them out of the way, that fire was coming from the south, and it's so weird watching how stupid those cattle are. And, I think cattle can be intelligent in some ways, but in a lot of ways they're really quite stupid.
Ignorant.
But I was riding, I was close enough, you could feel the heat of that fire on your face. It was uncomfortable. And those cattle were standing there looking at it. Like they were about to they wouldn't have started running probably.
Until it
It was
was too late.
way too late, way too late. But you could see, I mean, they saw it, and they were just standing there looking at it. Of course, the wind is blowing so hard.
Yeah. What'd you say, 70 mile an hour or something?
Probably. I mean, it was getting on with it. So we got around there, and tried to start a stampede, and we did stampede them for a minute, just driving them straight north. But after we run them about half a mile or a little less, there was a quarter of them that broke to that trot,
Started
then
slowing
a
down.
slow trot,
Yeah.
and that fire's gained on us. And what we did is we kicked them out on a county road, and that's probably the video you're talking about, is us running cattle north with a fire coming.
There's
from the
that
south.
video.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a
Oh my
50
goodness.
foot
Yeah.
wall of fire.
Yeah.
And then we went and we started to gather cows out of a middle pasture there to kick out the road. And what we'd had was on Monday, the fire had burned through the north end of the ranch. And then there was about a mile strip of grass it ended up being. And that fire that we just looked at on the video, so it was south of there. And so what we were thinking we were going to have to do is take those cattle we kicked out on the county road, kick them back on us, and continue driving them north till we got inside the old fire burn line.
Oh,
They'd
yeah.
be safe. There'd be no fuel.
Yep.
And so what ended up happening, what saved us from probably having to just abandon those cattle and leave, because I don't think we wouldn't have got them all there. Some of them were running out of gas too much. By the time we'd driven them that mile of the county road, we still had probably 2.5 miles to go to the old fire. And there's no way that they could have maintained the pace. Like, they were already running out of gas.
Sure.
Their genetics are too good. They don't run off too good. And
They don't have the athletic genetics.
they don't have the
No.
passion to do it anymore. But anyway, but that wind changed. And actually, it was a cold front. And a north wind came in, and it hit that fire. And all of a sudden, it went from like 75 degrees and warm, and you're sweating, and the wind's rolling out of the southwest, to a cold north wind. I mean, cold.
Yeah.
Like you needed a jacket.
Yeah.
Like that. Woo. And that pressure back on that fire slowed that thing way down. But then when that wind switched, it burned on into parts of Stinnett. So there wasn't a fireman to be found out there. And we ended up most of the night. That's what we did, is we took shovels, and we had our neighbor and a maintainer. And then we had a SkyTrack with a push blade on the front of it that Rob A., my dad, was on. And then I run a tractor a little bit with a bucket, and we just went to fighting that fire all night long, and finally got it put out. I don't know what time we got done, but tow sacks and buckets of water, and it's a pretty miserable experience, really.
Yeah, that fire was scary. We got to go up there and help y'all be a part of that. I mean, help wherever we could.
I told somebody that, Yellowstone was never as dramatic as, because we fought fire there was a flare up three days in a row. It was like being on Groundhog Day, the movie. About noon to 1 o'clock, 3 days in a row, a fire flare up, and we went and fought fire. And it was windy. It was like you were locked in. You were locked in a repetitive, just from how the fires came and where our country laid. By that second and third day, you were so mad at fire.
I bet.
You're just...
Hadn't slept much.
Hadn't slept much, and haven't rested any.
Yeah.
If you slept, but you hadn't rested any, and just everything has a scent to it. And then being a sandy soil, we
were up there. You had sand everywhere.
So much blowing dirt where it had taken the hide off.
It was
the
just
country.
like sandpaper hitting your face
Yeah,
every time going outside.
You had to wear sunglasses, even though
horrible. And had a bunch of burned calves and cows, and that's
I think that's one of the things people don't, who haven't been a part of a fire like that, don't know about, is that after a fire, there are animals that did not get killed by the fire, but need to be euthanized.
Yeah, because they're burnt up.
And that was a tough part.
Yeah.
Whenever we came up there of being a part of that, and we missed some of it, like some of the stuff that y'all had already found in the pasture. There were people going around in the pasture finding deer, other wildlife, horses, cattle that needed put down that had survived being burned.
Actually, I remember on Monday, that fire burned through our heifer pasture. It's about 700 acres. And that's the pasture I said had a lot of grass in it, like a lot of grass. And there's 30 or 35 maybe replacement heifers that were calving in there. And once that had burned through, they were busy defending the house. We didn't know what those cattle had done.
Yeah. I mean, that fire got close to the house, by the way.
Really close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, 60, 80 feet maybe.
Was not far at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I saddled up Hinge, which is a horse I've actually got in the sale on Tuesday. He would have been just turned 4. And got some goggles and, face coverings because it's just, the visibility was probably, I don't know, not far.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
You couldn't see, but I knew, I wanted to go see how those cattle were, but there was so much dirt blowing that, and rightly so, you were worried about breathing it in.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a wall of blowing dirt. And I long trotted out there, and you just kind of just get your head down. And I went and found those cattle and got them because I wanted to get them drove out of that dirt because they couldn't just stand there. And that fire had burned through that whole pasture. But oddly enough, there was a part of those cattle that weren't even singed. And then I took a revolver with me, and I knew what I was going to find, and put some cattle down as I found them.
Uh-huh.
Some of them had blown up into a fence that they couldn't get away from, and some of them that fire had you'd find them, they just had stopped them right there.
Yes, sir.
Calves and
Yep.
cows coming back for calves. It was rough. Yeah.
Oh, we got a new peanut gallery coming in. Got some cousins sneaking in on the pod, huh?
I can see what's going on.
And to see what's going on. I like the matching jackets y'all got going on.
Those are nice.
I'm going to take Tucker's so I can feel
Break mine
official.
out.
Nah, dude, don't
Be
take
like
mine.
y'all.
I won't.
Cold day. It's not bad.
Yeah, well, Nikki Guerin, Ben McCartney jumping in. Nick's already been on the pod.
And Ben's going to
Nick
be a
is an
future
experienced
guest.
podcaster.
Very
Experienced podcaster.
about to learn.
Well,
How long you guys been at it?
anyway. Yeah, fire's a bad deal. Wasn't fun.
It was crazy. And then, and y'all, Willie and you came and helped, but, that we had, I don't remember, 16 or 18 baby calves that were burned minimally enough that we could save them. But even some of their mothers that weren't really burned that bad, like it would ruin their bags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their udders were burned
So,
and feet
and they
were burned.
wouldn't let those calves suck.
Yeah.
And so we ended up buying several milk cows, but there for a while it was just a bottle feeding nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like trying to decide what to do, there was lots of doctoring. We'd run quite a few cattle through the chute. It doesn't take very many cattle that if you're running through the chute every day to doctor their bags and squirt whatever in their eyes, like it becomes a pretty full-time job. I don't know what we'd
Dang
done
right.
if there'd have been 100 of them.
Yeah.
I imagine you'd have just gone to shooting them, I guess.
And then it was tough to draw the line, knowing where to draw the line of will this animal make it or should
Yeah.
it be euthanized?
Yeah, you have to make the decision of who lives, who dies, and you don't want any of them to die.
Yeah.
But it's a mercy thing. It really is.
Because if we do,
But it doesn't feel like it.
some of them,
Yeah, what's going to
they
happen
burn
if
their
you don't
feet.
euthanize them?
some of them, their feet are burned and it looks like they're going to be okay, but their feet will literally fall off.
Yeah, they'll walk
Yeah,
out of there.
2 weeks later, they may walk out of those their
Yep.
hooves, and then they're just on. It's horrible.
Or the ones that lost their bags, like their bags get burned. And you're like, oh, they'll make it, but then their bags get infected.
And then they would make it. They just never be able to reproduce again. And it's got to be so painful.
Oh, yeah.
So
Those animals are suffering.
And you can almost see it. I mean, I think we had it in a video of some of those calves trying to hook up, and those mamas just.
Yeah, a calf would
wanting
go
it.
get on,
Yeah.
and they'd kick them off.
Mm-hmm.
It was a wreck.
It was a wreck, but we're live. You're live. Didn't lose any structures or
Didn't
Lost
lose
some
any
hay.
structures. We did burn up a lot of hay.
A lot of hay.
Burned right
Yeah.
through our hay pen. And I think there may have been 250 rolls of wheat hay in there, like horse quality wheat hay, really good wheat hay. and we lost all that. That
Yeah,
made
you
a pretty good pile of ashes. Not that they were around long.
Yeah.
Ended up somewhere east of us, somewhere.
with the wind. All right, so now that we've been talking about fire, we're going to go to one of my favorite segments brought to you by Ag Gear. This is called the hot seat. And if you weren't wearing, because you're not wearing Ag Gear, that seat's going to be hot. But if you were, Ag Gear would be keeping you cool.
Off.
Yeah, Ag Gear would be keeping
Well, I'm
you
used
cool.
to heat, apparently. So.
Yeah. So if you haven't bought any Ag Gear yet, use code Tucker Brown, save 15%. That's what I wear every day.
You can lower that MSRP.
Lower the MSRP. All right. So into the hot seat, we got some questions for you from the audience.
Yep.
And there's some good ones.
All right.
Some from people you know, some from people you don't know.
All right. I'm ready.
First one. Oh, what is your most memorable moment in the show pen?
My most memorable moment. Well, I kind of had an interesting start to showing in NRCHA at major events. You know, I'd shown at some ranch horse competitions, small shows. But my first successful experience was borderline. I mean, it was successful, but it was borderline extremely successful because I'd won probably less than $10,000 in NRCHA, maybe less than 6,000 or 7,000. But I went to the fraternity in 2017 as a non-pro that was still eligible for the amateur. Like I hadn't even won enough to be out of the amateur. And I showed up on a metallic cat mare named Miss Scarlett's Cat that Brenda Michael had raced. And Brenda had told me, you know, I was wanting to get into it. And that was the first horse I'd ever ridden that had performance bloodlines in the modern sense. Everything else I'd ridden had been Eddies at Eddie Hancock, Smooth at Hearts, things like that. And this thing was so smart about everything that she did. I entered in the open and basically I just came in there and was able to compete with the open guys and make the open finals, which was a big deal. It is a big deal. And I won the level one and the limited open. Got a piece of the intermediate, and then in the open finals, I didn't make I made an open field turn, second turn, and I was so ignorant I didn't even know the rules, and I went straight to circling that cow in the middle of the pen, and marked a 210. 210 and a half with 15 penalty points, like it was a 5-point penalty per judge. But actually, that was a blessing, and it's taken me a little while to know if I think I would have probably been second or third at the open fraternity that year. I won well over $100,000 if I would have done that. Like, I would have won a lot of money, but it would have kicked me out of non-pro eligibility because $100,000 in open earnings. In NRCHA, you can't be a non-pro any longer. And yes, I was doing well, but you don't have a fraternity horse that's that good every year. You don't have one like that particular mare. You could just send her by a cow like you wanted to run by. Like the harder you'd send her, she'd just get to that spot and just stop harder. I mean, break a leg off, stop. And didn't need to back her a lot working her on a cow because she would hit and had so much draw through the middle of a turn. And so basically it just made you feel like Superman. You'd cut a cow and you could hold it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just and there I've not been on to this day I don't know that I've been on a horse that had that much confidence and desire to work a cow. And that was kind of my first one.
The most memorable moment in the show pen.
Yeah, it was probably showing that mare, and it was when ignorance was bliss. It was like running wide open through a prairie dog town, but no one had ever told you that there were holes there. That's what that showing experience was like. So I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
And then as you gain knowledge, you become more knowledgeable and
Respectfully afraid.
you're respectfully afraid, but it does take away from how you go at it a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Just because you know some of the pitfalls that you can fall into.
There were a lot of questions in here about your favorite horse that you've ever trained.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. I'd have to say Miss Scarlett's cat. I'm starting to ride some of her babies now. I've got a 3-year-old for the Futurity this year. I'm pretty high on.
Yeah.
But that mare took me places in a very short amount of time that were, you know, I mean, she paved the way for, she let me feel things like I trained her, but she was just such a unique individual. And even in the reining, like she was good in the reining, and she was kind of odd. That mare could really cut, but she'd also really go down the fence. And a lot of times, like one that really wants to work a cow correct, with their ears up and draw through the middle of every turn, they don't really want to go do that fence work. They're a little bit scared of a cow, a little hesitant to get up there, but she liked it. I don't know what she was best at, the fence work or the cutting, but she allowed me to feel things that I'm still trying to feel again.
And that was pretty much right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
So how
Went
hard?
from just basically a gunsel, and I was still a gunsel, but I tricked the judges into thinking I wasn't, just because I had that much horse flesh.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
And that make it pretty hard, which I think that's one of the questions is how do you approach a horse that maybe isn't as well-minded or doesn't have as much potential?
That's a good question.
Because you get that right out of the bat, and you're like, wow, this is pretty fun. This is pretty cool.
Oh.
And then you transition out to the next horse you get, well, what am I doing wrong? Like, it makes you second-guess everything, and how do you approach that now?
Well, you gotta try. You have to understand and the process and the ins and outs. Like on a horse that's not as willing or as talented,
Yes,
you
sir.
have to understand the ins and outs of every maneuver, the mindset, the approach of every maneuver, and then you have to train. You know, just like an unathletic kid playing sports. If they'll train long enough, you can get them to kind of do it, but they're never going to do it like that kid that's just gifted.
Yes, sir.
And that doesn't mean that they can't be good at it. Maybe it doesn't even mean they can't win. But they got to have a really good coach,
Yes, sir.
because just raw talent won't just take over. You know, and that's what when you're riding a more limited horse. You just got to train them. And that's where being a good horseman and horse trainer comes in. And yeah, I mean that's the struggle. Preferably, I'd rather never have to ride one like that.
Yeah.
I've ridden a bunch of them. And everybody has. That's just part of it. You got to, you know, it seems like if you start 10 colts a year, you're going to get hopefully one or two that are well above average out of those 10. And then maybe every 5 years, so out of 50 head of horses, hopefully you get one that is really talented.
Not 5
Really
years.
talented. And so it's a lot of waiting. You know, that's what keeps us going. It's just waiting, just knowing that, well, next year I've got a 2-year-old that maybe he'll come around and he'll give you that extra. Because what you want is for you to ask for an inch and then give you a mile. That's what you want. But it's no different than people. Those people are, a lot of times you ask them for that inch and then they want to argue with you about giving you the
fight
inch.
you about it.
Yeah, just like people. They need to be able to give themselves willingly. You need to ask them for everything they've got and them say yes sir. And that's really hard to find. It doesn't matter what
People
it
or
is.
horses.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Well, let's go the other way. How do you approach a horse that is too smart for their own good and anticipates?
Lots of mind games. Like you put that horse in a situation. So say a horse is going to anticipate a lead change in the middle of the pen. So I'm gonna bring him through the middle of the pen a lot and set him up and say I'm about to change, and then don't. Or I'm gonna run you through this stop zone, and I'm gonna kind of do my little sequence of movements or mental thoughts, preparing for a stop, and then take him past it and break him down. And just lots of putting them in that position where they get their defense up to anticipate, and then don't. And that's what takes a long time to learn how to do. Yeah, it takes a long time to learn how to do. And then like a lot of horses anticipate the stop. And it took me a long time to figure out. The approach to a stop takes a long time to train. You know, the stop itself is quite simple, but if a horse will approach a stop good, just about anybody can stop them. Mm-hmm. If that horse approaches with the emergency brake on just a little bit, or scotching or leaning, it doesn't matter how physical that horse can stop. He won't stop as good if he doesn't approach that stop good. So there's just a lot of time that has to be spent teaching that horse how to run to that stop. And it takes a long time. Yeah. And then it takes a lot of maintaining, you know, and you got to lay that foundation to where you don't have to run and stop them a lot. But when you point them down that pin and you say, let's go get it on, that horse picks his head up, squares his shoulders up, and runs to go hit them hocks square. It's a job. And that's where I talk about you have to have just a lot of experience doing it a lot. There's no other way to really learn it, I don't think.
That was good.
No.
I never thought about the approach, really.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Also, I'm not a horse trainer, so.
If that approach is everything. And early on, you know, there's a lot of guys you'll see kind of lope one around and catch them at the right time and get them to drag their butt. It's like, okay, now go do that really well, maybe 3 or 4 different times, and that horse has done it 3 or 4 more times, you know, what's he going to do now? And that's when the stop goes away, because that horse knows, oh, you're going to stop me over here. Well, I'll get ready for it then. Mm-hmm. Well, a horse that's kind of ready to stop mentally don't stop very good.
Interesting.
Because they're running with that brake on. You want that stride behind long to where they fully commit to carry their butt into that ground. So.
And you're talking a lot about experience. You've learned a lot of this through experience. So I imagine there's been a lot of failure. What are some of the biggest failures that you see less as a failure and more of something that helped you, was a learning and experience that made you more successful? So in reality, it really wasn't a failure. Is there a couple of things that come to mind that those particular failures?
Yeah, like not switching sides in open finals in 2017. It cost me a lot of money, but it also taught me, hey, you know, ask questions and know what the rules are.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Don't be that guy that doesn't know what the rules are. And then, I mean, honestly, you fail way more than you succeed.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's probably that way with a lot of things, but maybe everything. But in the horse show deal, you're just constantly trying to, it's like keeping an edge on a knife that you're using a lot. Like if you're using it a lot, that edge goes away, but you sharpen it a lot. And that's you have to just constantly be sharpening yourself, that when you do go in there and fail, and then you'll sharpen yourself up, sharpen your horse up a little bit, and hopefully you go in there next time. And every now and then you'll go in that show pen, and you're sharp, and everything just clicks, and you go down there and you can't hardly make a mistake. Kind of similar, we were talking about the ranch rodeo. Every now and then when you get that opportunity to win, hopefully you've got the edge enough on yourself and on your horse to come out the winner.
Yeah.
But it don't happen very often.
Wisdom, Myles.
Yeah, they don't happen very often. It's hard. That cow horse is hard, and I cut a little bit too. Cutting's hard too, but I'm not as into the cutting. The cow horse takes a lot of my time. I mean, and I think the roping deal's hard, but you get out of it what you put into it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go here. Cutting, cow horse, or ranch rodeo. Rank them in your preference.
Cow horse, cutting, ranch rodeo.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Cow horse, cutting, and ranch rodeo.
Just because it's harder for me to be good at the cow horse and the cutting than the ranch rodeo. The ranch rodeo is just basically like do your cowboy stuff in an arena and do it faster.
Yeah.
And then, like, if it doesn't work out, the chips just fall where they go.
Yeah.
Like, you don't. To me, there's not a lot of prep for a ranch rodeo. Like, if you better live prepared for a ranch rodeo. It's
Which I think is interesting. Like the way you ranked it and what you enjoy, is in the rankings of the things that you find more difficult. You find cow horse more difficult, but it's your favorite. You find cutting more difficult than ranch rodeo, but you have cutting over ranch rodeo. So for you, that preparation and that work is where you find that fulfillment.
I like I don't always enjoy the grind of constantly
It's hard.
humiliating myself, but I do. I don't know what else I would do with myself if I wasn't constantly doing it. And I've kind of grown up. You know, I started when I was about 20, and now I'm 30. I've spent about 10 years, and it's just a constant. You do something good and you gain confidence, then you'll ride that tailwind of that confidence till you crash, then your confidence is shattered, and you have to rebuild it. That's all it is, over and over and over and over. And
Yeah, I
really
think that's
kind
wise.
of dumb sounding when you think about it. But
I think a lot of people quit once that first crash happens.
most people don't have the mentality to do that
To
competitive
get through
stuff.
those crashes.
Yeah. They don't have the mentality to accept the failures.
It's hard. I've been
How
there.
do you handle failure?
Poorly.
Poorly.
I hate it. I hate it. I mean, I guess I handle it pretty good because I do it a lot.
Yeah.
I hate. I mean, I have a very high standard set for myself,
Yes, sir.
and I'm a little weird, maybe a lot weird, but it doesn't really if it doesn't feel good to me. Doesn't matter what it is. If it doesn't feel good, I don't like it. I don't care what anybody else has to say about it. It has to feel a certain way, and if it feels good, but maybe somebody doesn't like it as good, like maybe they don't mark it I like what it felt like, and then you ride out and they say, well, that was only a 72.5. Well, it felt like a 73.5 to me, but I liked it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to let the judge dictate whether I was pleased with it or not.
I like that.
Yeah, because it pleased me.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good.
From a very fundamental, I guess, overlook, whatever that failure may be, whether something that the horse did, something that you feel like you came up short, how do you approach fixing or overcoming that failure? Like, do you have a set blueprint that you do, or what is it when you get home?
Yeah, I mean, like, if your horse drags a lead or something, I'm kind of to the point now where if I have a problem in the show pen, a lot of times it's a show problem. It's a me problem.
Yes, sir.
It's not that my horse isn't trained to change leads. It's maybe I didn't set him up early enough, or I was a little late, or I was I was being a little bit too aggressive. But I don't. I've kind of morphed, and I don't particularly care for this approach, but I've morphed into probably not. I have to make myself push harder, like, and that's probably why I don't win as much as I'd like to. But you kind of need to just cock the hammer and pull the trigger. Whereas you want to kind of hold your breath and you kind of try and line everything up and really take your time. But you can miss doing that too. But really what you need to do is cock the hammer, pull the trigger, and let the chips fall where they may, and just go do it. But a lot of there's training, then there's tuning, and then there's showing. A lot of people, that's a problem that they have watching early on. If you go to a show and you watch everybody working their horses, they're not training those horses. They're tuning them. Show them. But there's a big difference between training and tuning. And so, like, if you're just getting started and the only place you are exposed to anybody doing something different is at the show, well, you're watching people tune, but you think they're training. That's you cannot tune a horse every day.
Yeah.
You're going to break the strings. So, like, when you're training, you're not tuning. You're showing. You're taking lots of time, and you're training that horse. Then leading up to a show, you're going to tune him up. Then you're going to let her rip when you show him, and then your timing has to be prepared. Your brain has to be a stride or two ahead of that horse all the time. Which it doesn't sound that hard to stay ahead of a horse, but it can be, especially on a good one. I mean, those horses, especially after they've been shown a few times, they're not stupid.
Yeah.
They know. Yeah.
That was good. One last question here from one of your loving cousins. Do you ever wish you would have kept roping calves from high school?
No.
Very quick
answer. I wasn't. I was okay. I was all right. I had a little bit of talent. My mental game wasn't, looking back, I would like to go do it now if I had the time or would make the time, just to work on the mental game of it.
You think you'd be roping traveling around with Wesley Thorpe if you would have?
No, he's a team roper.
Well, yeah, but that's why I said traveling around, not competing against.
No. The rodeo deal, you got to be away from home a lot, and I like being at home and training horses.
Yeah.
And then I like riding young horses. Like, I start a lot of colts, probably more than I should, because sometimes I start more than I can do. But there's not much repetitive about early on in colts because it's all new, and that's the draw of the futurity. You know, a lot of people that don't understand it think the futurity. They just don't understand the futurity. Well, what's so interesting about it is you're taking that horse, and that horse is completely innocent other than what you've taught him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a fresh canvas, and it's a new opportunity. So you start that colt, ride him for a year, he turns 3, and then you got 10 months of his 3-year-old year to try and get him to do all you can do. But what I found is lots of times it's getting them ready to do a lot, but not actually following through with it to where they're just right there. You're sharpening that edge to where now that knife's ready to cut.
Mm-hmm.
And you release that into the futurity show pen.
So with futurities, you think it's a better representation of an individual's skills at training a horse?
You bet. Yeah,
Okay.
like there's a lot of people that can take a 5 or a 6-year-old
Mm-hmm.
after they've gone through all the stuff and get them to go do some stuff. But to get a 3-year-old
Mm-hmm.
to do 3 events really good,
You got to really know what
you
you're doing.
have to really have some horsemanship abilities because you can't force them to do it. You
Yeah.
got to get them where they want to do it. You can maybe force them to do it for a little bit, but you're not. That horse will take advantage of you. Like whatever's inside will come out.
Yeah.
You can't cover it up. And you may trick those judges once. You may even trick them twice.
We ain't going to do it.
The
3
odds of
times.
tricking them that 3rd time. And then having to do it again, if you do trick them the 3rd time and you make the finals on a horse that you really don't have mentally prepared, then finals are not going to be very much fun. He will crap on you.
It's like you've been there before or seen
Yeah,
it.
I've done it a lot, over and over and over. And I've found that I've taken myself out trying too hard a lot in the finals. I make a lot of finals. I'm better at making the finals than I am at performing in the finals, it seems like. But the main thing, if you can make the finals, you've done your job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, you're out of the hot seat now.
Okay.
You're good. You're
Cooled off.
out of the hot seat. You can cool off. So that segment brought to you by Ag Gear. We love them. Use code Tucker Brown. Get 15% off on all Ag Gear products. But we're going to put you back in another one of my favorite segments. This one brought to you by Bedrock Truck Beds. We just got a new Bedrock
We did.
flatbed, and it
Brand
is
new.
sweet.
It makes the truck look like a different truck.
But I can't share more about it until like April.
It's classified information.
It is classified.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to share that with you. Anyway, welcome to, Bedrock Truck Beds, some of the toughest truck beds there is. That's why we use them at the R.A. Brown Ranch. Check them out. Get one put on yourself. But we're going to ask you, Myles, the Bedrock tough question. What is the toughest thing about training horses?
Being consistent in your mentality and your approach. That's the hardest thing about it. Because if you're consistent in your mentality and your approach, you'll get consistent results. If you're inconsistent, you'll get inconsistent results. And so, and I try to be a big mentality guy. My mentality, if I'll have a calm, collected approach to what I'm doing, that horse will eventually have the same approach. And that's kind of my whole 2-year-old program. I just kind of wool them around till their brain changes and crawl on them and just kind of try and ride them off. And then I just kind of try and, like a ball of wax, build it into what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And try not to get those horses too broke too soon. I try not to pick at them. But you have to have a really mature mentality and approach for that to work. Because if you get on and that colt gets scared, and you get scared with him, now you got 2 scared individuals, and one of them's a lot stronger than you are.
Yeah.
So you just have to get on there. And when he gets scared, you have to go, what's the big deal? You want to run off? Well, I can ride longer than you can run, I imagine. And all of a sudden that colt goes, well, this guy knows what he's doing. And they'll just get in there and they'll trust you and they'll follow you. And you can get a colt doing so much in such a short amount of time through your mentality.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard. And then, you want results fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing, that's about the futurity deal is the pressure of the clock is always on. And so, like, it's July of their 3-year-old year, and you're rolling down the fence, and he isn't taking it very good. You've still got a lot of time to get this horse to where he understands that fence work at high speed. But it doesn't feel like you got a lot of time.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is being smart enough to know. And you can do a lot in 2 weeks. Like, if you've laid the foundation, you can do a lot to a futurity horse in 2 weeks as far as building their confidence up, letting them know, hey, that was really good. And maybe it was just mediocre, but a 3-year-old that thinks something's really good and will try for you will beat those really talented horses that aren't confident about it. Confidence is everything at the futurity.
Getting your horse to be confident?
Your horse has to be confident. He can't go in there scared.
Do you remember, I mean, you saying 2 scared individuals, do you ever remember a moment where that happened to you?
Oh, a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I've had one run off that I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Every time I've had one blow up and buck me off. When you think back on it, you go, well, what was my mentality approach? Something you did early on or didn't do caused that situation. And I'll still do things wrong today that will cause bad situations, but my mentality's different. My mentality's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've had horses run off. I don't remember the last time I've had one run off now, because my mentality, yeah, they may run off for a minute, something scare them, but my mentality is I've gotten very comfortable, like, and then not panicking. Like, when a colt runs off, most people panic.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. And I just did it enough. I've just done enough now that when it happens, it don't bother me.
Yeah.
And then that horse runs off. Maybe he goes 100 yards. Maybe you got to duck a little bit of brush. But then here in a second, it's over, and you never did lock down and pull and scare that colt the second time. Most of the time, what gets you in a bind is the second scare. The first scare, if you'll do it right, it'll be over just like that. And you go, hey. It's a second scare. So that colt gets scared, then you get scared, and you try and pull on that colt, and you've not prepared him to take a straight pull. What's he going to do? He's going
to freak out
right
even
through
more.
that bit. Now you've harmed his mouth. He knows how to take the bit from you.
Yes, sir.
And you're out of control. All it takes is just knowing what you're going to do before that situation comes, and that just comes from experience.
Dude, it's like you were there when when the first one ran off on me. You described it to a T. It was swig. There's a video of it, and I was scared. Dude, I remember I was like yelling at my brother, like, what do I do? I had my hands back by my mouth. I mean, the reins back
locked
by
up.
my mouth.
And you feel like there's just not enough rein.
Yeah, he's Lanham's like, ride him. I was like, nope, really. But now I understand it. Like, you ride it out of them.
And steer them, like in a snaffle or a hackamore or a halter. If that horse's adrenaline's pumping and he's scared, and you lock back on there, there's no leverage. But even in a big leverage bridle, like, that horse is scared enough, it don't mean nothing to him. He'll gap his mouth, stick his chin on his chest, and run off, or he'll take his nose and he'll root it up and run off. This is it's a train, like pulling straight back. That's a trained thing. It's not like a brake on your pickup. It's not like we pull back and these horses know, I can't run through that. No, they can. It's a trained thing to react positively to that pressure.
And without experience, like, that's your first reaction is just to pull straight back.
They don't know. Those horses don't know. And so, like, when they go to run off, let them go for a minute. Maybe get a hold of your saddle horn, and then just take your forward motion and either take them right, just tip their nose just a little bit. And if you can get them started in an arc, one way or the other, pretty soon. And then it's over. Like, those horses just learn, there's nothing to be scared of. And once that happens, now we can start. I try not to ever pull on a colt that's not mentally ready to be pulled on. Like 2 reins. I'm not saying I don't go left and right a bunch. A snaffle's designed for left and right. It was actually designed to plow fields in. Snaffles, or an old mule bit, and they steer those horses left and right. So that's how we're supposed to ride that snaffle. Through pressure and release, we can get to where we can pull 2 reins on that snaffle and get those horses to bridle up and collect themselves. But it's not designed for that. Only through good timing and pressure and release can we get those horses to ride that way in the snaffle. But a lot of people just don't understand the mechanics of how that's supposed to work. You know, understand what your bridle was designed for, because what it was designed for, that's how it's going to work the best.
Yeah.
You know, starting out, there's a lot of that I didn't know. But I ask a lot of questions.
Well, that was that was really good.
Yeah.
And we saw Nick do that yesterday, basically with that colt that he was running around.
Yeah.
It's funny because you seeing a horse that thinks they're out of control with Nick yesterday, who was just cool as a cat.
Yeah.
Well, no big deal.
Yeah, just hanging on. That was really good. I like that
Well, then, you know, like
description a lot that you just gave.
the reverse psychology of it, like Nick with that colt, maybe that colt didn't want to be still. Like maybe he was standing in the middle there of the arena for everybody that wasn't there. Maybe that colt didn't want to be still, and he was just laying on that bit and wanting to go somewhere. And Nick says, well, okay, let's go somewhere. So he takes that colt, and he'd take that bridle rein and just kind of give him one of these, and that colt would run off, and Nick would just on drape rein, bring him up, bend him around, and run him around and run him around. Then here in a second, you'll see that horse go, okay, so we're running off kind of. Okay, I lived through that, but now I'm kind of getting tired. And Nick says, well, let's go stand over here. Horse stops in the middle. You pet on him. Through reverse psychology, you taught that horse, hey, be with me where I'm at. Because if you want to leave, we'll leave.
But you gonna work.
We're going to go work. You want to be still? We'll be still. And all of a sudden, that horse starts training their self. That's really what we want. We want to train the horse to train their self to do the right thing. That's really the goal. We don't want to have to teach them every step. We want them to be able to grab and take ground, because through our mentality and our approach, that horse just figures out there's an easy way to do things and there's a hard way to do things. The easy way is learn to say yes. When you ask something, I want those horses to say yes. I don't know exactly what you're saying, but I'm going to try and figure it out.
Making the right
I'm trying
thing
to
easy.
crawl out of a maze. You put pressure on here, and they go, there's got to be some, I don't know where it's at, but there's got to be somewhere up here where there's a little light, and I'll get out there, and that release. And they'll get to where they crave it. Yeah.
Well, that segment brought to you by Bedrock Truck
Bedrock
Beds. Bedrock, you got to try one. That's why we have them. It's because we tried one out last year. We liked it enough. We got another.
You got two now.
Yeah, we got two of them. Get your Bedrock Truck Bed. They're cool. And come April, I'm going to share how special this new one is we got. It's going to be cool. You can see that on our Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Check us out
Everywhere.
there. Tucker Brown RAB or Registered Ranching. Myles, you feel like everybody that's had some success has had some sort of trainer or person they look up to. Name a few of those, a few people you've been looking up to in your horse training or life.
You know, there's a bunch of them, and it changes over time as far as what style is winning. Like there's a different style that's a different flavor is always popular as far as what's dominating the major events, and you got to be careful trying to follow that. You know, you need to really just form your own style. Take pieces. I'm not saying don't, but try and do it how you can do it best. Don't try and do it how somebody else does it best, because odds are you can't do it like they do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, Kyle Traherne and Todd Crawford, I've learned a lot from both of those guys. I went and summered with Kyle Traherne up in Walsh, Colorado. 2015, I think. And he taught me how to change leads, you know, like where it wasn't an accident. And Kyle's really good at running and stopping a horse. A lot of what I do today, I may have strayed away from it, but I'll come right back to it and go, oh yeah, it's still just that old simple. Like, if it's complicated, you're probably doing it wrong, because, you know, the application can be complicated, but the process is simple. Doesn't really matter what you're doing. Like, if you're going to cut, well, we need to sort one out, you know, preferably quietly and cleanly, and then we're going to hold it away from the herd in an organized fashion, and then we're going to do that a couple more times, and the buzzer will go off. That's a simple process.
Yeah.
That can be hard to do, but if you don't approach it where it's simple, it gets complicated. And that's where I think most people live, where we make it too hard in our own mind. It's just like almost too high of a mountain to climb, you know. But we build that mountain.
Build it yourself.
most of the things we run into that keep us from succeeding in life are walls that we build, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What, how about, okay, we talked about the horse training world. What about in the cowboy world? Don't want to forget that, I mean, you're still ranching, you're still calving heifers, you're running yearlings. You're still a rancher, still a cowboy.
Yep. That's my first love is ag, always. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there any cowboys you looked up to that gave you a lot of wisdom or?
A bunch. Yeah. You know, you've had Buzz Thorpe on the podcast. I named my son after Buzz, Joseph Nelson. Buzz's name is Joe Nelson Thorpe. He never really used that name much.
Yeah, he didn't. Did he?
Most he ever used it, his horse brand's JN. But I love Buzz, always have. Buzz gave me the attention, like being the middle of 7 and the third boy. Like helping my dad, a lot of the times you'd only get reprimanded. And then if you were doing something good enough you didn't need to be reprimanded, there's not much said.
Yeah.
Because he had so much, like he had to organize the day, and he would take his kids to go help him. And there wasn't time.
Uh-huh.
It's not that he did anything wrong. It's just there wasn't time to talk through things.
Mm-hmm.
And Buzz is a great communicator. And Buzz would explain why something worked, why something you did was right, and more importantly, why something you did was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when people reprimand you, they say, that was wrong. You need to do it this way. I've always been really big on why. Why do I need to do it that way? Because if I can understand the thought process behind it,
kind of teaching you to teach yourself.
Start following.
I mean, just like a horse.
Start teaching yourself. Yeah. Where common sense prevails,
Mm-hmm.
in everything that you do. And if trying to get the next level of being a good hand in the cowboy world is just about that, your mentality, your approach, and being able to admit you were wrong.
Yeah.
That's really hard for me, especially because I'm right a lot. But anyway.
Yeah, Buzz is a good one, isn't he?
Oh, man, he's incredible. And there's so many things that Buzz teaches about putting a herd together and driving a herd, working a cow from the side versus from the back, where they, from the side they can see you. From the back, they're going to try and see you. And a cow that's doing this all the time
ain't going to be moving as fast.
Ain't moving forward very good.
Yeah, kind of hard to walk forward when you're looking back.
Oh.
I've tried it.
And Buzz and my dad and our family are masters of getting more done with less. Like, go get cattle worked with maybe 3 or 4 little kids helping. You can get more done with less through your approach. Jody Bell is another one. Can get a lot done and not have to have the biggest, best crew. Our family, I think that's being efficient, is getting the job done with what you have and getting it done right.
Mm-hmm.
And Buzz was always so good at that. The little things matter when it comes to stockmanship, horsemanship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just like roping. The difference between somebody that ropes okay and somebody that ropes really good is probably mostly their mentality. It's just that much.
What's the most rewarding part on the rancher side for you?
The lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Just enjoying the lifestyle.
The byproducts of the lifestyle. Yeah, I don't know that I'm shy, but I do appreciate my solitude. I like quiet time. I like living out in the country.
Yeah.
I prefer that. I love the lifestyle, and it's not something I do. It's just something that you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to me too, and it's important to raise my family that way. I think in this day and age, that lifestyle is what we need to hold on to more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And having that moral code.
Get up in that mic a little bit. Get up in that mic a little bit, though. There you go.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think it's a big deal. That you got a pretty cool spot out there.
It is
right by the pens.
Pretty cool.
Whenever we were helping you, or like whenever we came to help where we could right after that fire, it was fun because Willie and I mean, not exactly fun, a different type of fun, just to be.
We did in a different country,
right? Yeah, just to be at y'all's spot, because we would go out and help you get those calves hooked up to that milk cow and get them fed, and then we went in and have a little late breakfast and
Tucker probably got annoyed because I kept talking about how cool your house was. I was like, man, this is like a dream
it's a
house.
good little house.
Tucker's
It's
like,
a
all
good
right,
little
Willie.
house.
I've
It
heard
sits
about
right
that.
by the arena. I live right by the arena, not very far to the barn. Got a lot of cottonwood trees, and we're kind of down in a hole. Like for the Panhandle of Texas, it's not what you would expect.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
It's not what you would expect, and there's a lot of really neat history in that area.
That was one other thing I wanted to touch on was your appreciation for history, all the way back to different battles with the Indians or the what'd you call it, the
Red River War was in that area,
Red River
kind of the
War.
last war there with the Comanches, and
what'd you call the
cavalry finally got something right there.
what did you call the people that were here before the Indians?
Well, there was the Clovis and the Folsom people, and even before that, they say there was something they called the Antelope people, but
Antelope.
they were named
I was going to say
long after they
Pronghorn.
were gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they called themselves. I don't think anybody does. But the draw to that particular area was the Alabates Flint Quarry. Of course, it was named Alabates in the 1900s. I don't know. But very high quality flint in that area. And supposedly some of the earliest traces of human existence in the state of Texas was there not very far from where we lived just because of that flint quarry. They could make such high quality tools in comparison to using a rock. I mean, it's still a rock, but this flint will get sharp. And there was a lot of it, and they would mine it right there just on the south side of the Canadian River is where this flint quarry is. And those tribes had war over it. Like it was kind of the crown jewel in that area because it made the best spears and tips for your arrows. And so we find lots of artifacts. And
Yeah, it was cool.
some of them are probably from Comanches, but a lot of it's a lot older.
Yeah.
Way before the Comanches probably come in the mid 1700s or early 1700s in that area. Took it from the Apaches, and then the Apaches, they took it from some of these people that we really don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
And it was pre-horse, So they probably killed some buffalo, but it would have been sneaking up on them in a water hole, and it was a completely different existence. And you'll find at Indian campground, you'll find where they were eating freshwater clams, and you can still see where they built their wiki ups. They're more than a teepee; they were more of a permanent structure. I found some stone tools, which tells me it's really old, and then lots of flint, lots of arrowheads. But yeah, I've always been enthralled with the past, especially, anything cowboys and Indians. I've just always been drawn to that ever since I was a little kid. I still watch a lot of Westerns. Still to this day, I like Gunsmoke. I'm just kind of wired that way.
What's your favorite John Wayne movie?
Probably the Cowboys or the Searchers. The Searchers I have a few problems with. It's filmed in Monument Valley, and then it's supposed to be in Texas. And I guess John Ford used his poetic license to do it. But, the older you get, the less I can appreciate it because the details matter.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the Cowboys so much fun to watch is because they work so hard on just the little details. The story's good. It's the little things that matter in a movie.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between, we've talked about ranching, we've talked about horse training. What's the difference between a horse trainer and a cowboy? You playing both, or is there a difference?
A horse trainer needs to have some show off in him. Whereas a cowboy, the more show off is in a cowboy, the harder it is to really be a good cowboy, in my opinion. Because by trying to show off, a lot of times you're being too wild as a cowboy. Whereas, like, showing horses, literally, it involves showing off. That's what it is.
It is, yeah.
Showing off your abilities, what you can get them to do. And so it's just that approach. You know, I strive to try and be prepared that when things need to get fast on the ranch, I can handle that. I can run and do whatever. Speed's never really bothered me. The cow horse demands a lot of speed. We're comfortable with a horse running full out.
Yes, sir.
Don't really bother anybody. Nobody thinks anything about it. A lot of people starting out find it to be very uncomfortable, but you know, but a cowboy that runs fast a lot
probably isn't doing
probably a little bit
something right.
wild. You know, but you know, and then a cowboy versus a horse trainer. A horse trainer's always thinking about what things look and felt like, where maybe the cowboy is, he got more to think about. And so a lot of times he doesn't get that only a few things, you know, like what did that feel like, what did that look like? Well, a cowboy's, he's thinking about, you know, did he change the oil on the tractor? And,
Yeah.
you know, like maybe a lot of what he does horseback isn't quite as polished.
Just trying to get the job
That's
done.
okay. But I think there's a blend there where everything you do needs to have a certain amount of polish on it, but getting the job done is obviously priority.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A long-winded answer that probably didn't involve much, but
No, I enjoyed that. It's neat to hear how much mentality is that you have invested in. Invested in your mindset. I thought that was really cool, and I don't think you have to be a horse trainer to enjoy this conversation.
I hope not. There's probably a lot of horse trainers that won't enjoy this conversation. They're like, this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's an idiot.
You are one of the people who, side thought here, you are one of the people who changes their facial hair more than anyone I know.
Yes. Yeah.
Is
I
the
don't know why that
mustache
is.
only for the show?
The mustache has kind of been a Fort Worth stock show. I'll grow a mustache.
Okay.
So I'm clean shaven for the futurity. It's a cycle, really.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like a season.
Yep. So clean shaven for the snaffle bit. That's October. Then you grow a beard.
For the
And then-
winter.
Yep. For like, November, December. Then you come to a mustache for stock show, and you keep it until you can't stand it. Cut that off about, I guess, for the sale. Now the sale's
I know,
really, that
yeah.
clean shaven starts back over. I may grow another beard until it gets hot enough I can't stand it, and then it's just through the summer, it's you shave when you think about it. So I don't really think of it as it's not like
Changing
a conscious
it, yeah,
decision.
yeah.
But my wife likes the mustache,
I know.
but but it's also nice to be rid of it,
Sure.
So
No, you mentioned your wife, their family has raised
some of the
pretty
best.
talented horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the best.
I mean, more than one, but there's one in particular that comes to my mind.
Yeah. Well, there's a horse named Red, White, and Boone. There's a smart little lean out of Royal Blue Boone that won 800-something thousand. They raised him. And then, obviously, Pepto won the cut futurity with Gary Bellenpont. And
And we're going to
good
have him at the sale, by the way.
well, we were. He's
Oh.
still recovering from a surgery, and I don't think he's going to be able to make it. So
Really? I didn't know
Winston
that.
Hansma
Okay.
is our replacement, which is an excellent replacement. And we're glad that Winston was able to do it. It'll be Corey Pounds and Winston are going to come out and just talk about the mentality behind training a cutting horse.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
That'll be good. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but talk a little bit about your wife's family and their success on those.
They just, Larry Hall, my wife Jaylee's granddad, he just had that nature that he wanted excellent horses, and he submerged himself into pedigrees. He understood the pedigrees, and at that time you couldn't get on your phone and figure out how horses were bred. Mm-hmm. You had to be more creative, Send off to AQHA, and they'd send him papers, and he'd read them. And he'd give a lot of money for Royal Blue Boone. And a lot of people, I think, thought he was a fool for giving that much money at that time in the 80s. But he was right. And then he owned another mare named Doc Lady. But, I'll tell you what he understood, and it's as true today as it has ever been. It doesn't matter what stud you breed to. If you don't have a really good mare, you're not going to get consistent results. You may raise a few nice horses, but that mare better have something extra because, at least 50% comes from the mare.
Mm-hmm.
But probably more than that. I mean, I think in a lot of people's opinion, especially if that mare's raising that foal, it's going to teach that horse, it's going to teach that foal her mannerisms at minimum. If she's kind of hard to catch and a little stupid, what's that foal going to be like that she raised? Mm-hmm. Just like we're like our parents. Horses a lot of times are like their parents. And so that's where, I don't know, you need to be careful what recent mares you use if you're flushing, because if that recent mare's old crazy idiot, what's she teaching your $15,000 foal that she carried? Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Your wife help you at the ranch?
Yes, my wife is, she is everything to me. I mean, she makes my life so much better in every way. She's just wonderful. Hard worker, my goodness. She loves to work. She loves to be outside, loves to ride horses. She's a very talented equestrian. I mean, she has a really good seat on a horse, and it's just like watching her work a horse or show a horse is so much fun for me and she grew up doing it.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of good hands, trainer, and Craig Morris, cutting futurity champion, he would pick Jaylee up when she was like 7 or 8. He'd pick her up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and take her, and she'd go stay all day, help him work horses. So how many little girls do you know that want to go do that?
Sure.
I mean, she's just wired. She's just wired for the, and she didn't grow up as much around the ag deal, but she's taken to it like a duck to water. I mean, she loves it. She absolutely loves it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like you like her.
She's okay.
All right, Myles, as we kind of wander down here, there's a lot of people, this industry, the horse industry's changed a lot in the past 15 years, especially in the last 10.
Yes.
Lots of people wanting to get into it.
Yep.
What are your recommendations for, no matter what age, somebody wanting to get into the cowboy or horse training industry? I know they're both different. So
Tucker wants to start showing horses. What does he got to do?
I think it'd be good. It'd be good.
Yeah, what's your advice?
Understand why you're wanting to get into it. Like do just enough of it to figure out what's driving you to get into it. If it's a desire to be the cool guy that wins, that's probably not enough reason. So you might as well go team rope. Like do something that doesn't take, I'm not saying team roping's easy by any stretch of imagination, but it's a little easier to be a weekend warrior and have fun. Cow horse cutting, takes a big commitment. Like it's a day in. I mean, it's hard to half-ass it. You got to whole-ass it.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's just the way it is. So understand why you're wanting to do it, and if you just like the lifestyle and you don't mind long hours and probably really embarrassing yourself a lot, then find somebody that knows more than you do and shut up. That's
good advice.
Most of the time that people start, that's the problem, is they can't shut up. They're always trying to tell the teacher how much they know. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in what you know. I didn't bring you here to teach me. You came here to learn. So shut up.
Good
and
advice.
try and be somebody that can learn from watching. Because, I mean, I can sit here and I can explain something to you, and hopefully what I say makes sense, and you can kind of get a taste of it to where you can start getting your own angle on what exactly that means. But if you can't learn from watching, it's going to be a long old road. Because it's hard to find somebody that'll take the time to explain. I heard Todd Bergen, I think, very successful horse trainer, say, if you can't tell what somebody's trying to do by watching them, they're probably not doing it right. Now, there's a lot of ways to do something right, but like if they're working a horse, an experienced or semi-experienced eye, honestly, should be able to watch for just a few minutes and be able to tell where the pressure is and where the release is. And if you can't, if you're watching somebody, you've been watching them for a few minutes, and you can't tell what they're doing, They may not know it, but they don't know what they're doing either. And how's a horse supposed to know?
Uh-huh.
Like it's pressure and release. That's the foundation for everything that we do. It's just offering that horse the better deal through pressure and release. And I can see it if you train yourself to look for it. And then, like the guys that are really good at it, those horses learn fast. And you don't see them working a horse with a big old sweat on near as often in an arena. You know, if you're going to put a big sweat on one, more than likely it probably needs to be outside. That's where you'll get the most good out of it, just by a long time of.
You mean outside the arena?
Outside the arena. That's right. That's the best place for a horse's brain to just come back. If you put a big sweat on them in the arena, it's a more high stress situation in there. It's fine. It just is. So I need to listen to my own advice probably, but that's the hardest thing to do sometimes. Practice what you preach.
Yeah, no joke. Willie, you got anything?
Yeah, I guess just going back to like when you were talking about those horses running off, and kind of like from a personal experience that I can relate to, like with my very limited experience, I went and lived in Utah for about 6 or 7 months and worked up there for the Frost family, and Joe was really big on using halters at first on a horse. Didn't really like
starting them in a halter.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So I was riding with a halter and the horse starts running off. And my first reaction, like we were talking about, like those guys just want to pull straight back. And of course, with a halter, there's no leverage. That horse just ran through it.
Yeah.
And that, I think.
Might as well have been pulling on its tail.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I probably would have had better luck doing that. But going back to that is, Joe immediately realized his first thing of advice was like, you've got to remove your emotion from that. Because my first instinct was, all right, like, he's running off, like, that uncomfortable, scary feeling, but then also just that anger of, like, why are you doing this? And having that anger and having that emotion kind of just messes up that clarity for it to allow you to be able, like, to realize, like, oh, this is what I need to do. I need to kind of bump from the side and try and get that horse to bend around.
Teach this horse.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And really, it's something that you can relate to anything in life. Like, if you're allowing emotion to dictate your reactions, you're not going to have the clarity to do the correct thing. Whether you're on horseback, whether it's a relationship, or just maybe a chaotic situation when you're in the fire, when you're out there horseback trying to move those cattle. If you were reacting and allowing that feeling, that emotion that you had, you probably couldn't make those decisive decisions that you had to make to push those cattle or to make a decision on a horse. And I think that's something that's really important that I kind of took away. That was more than just my horsemanship from Joe, was don't allow your emotion to cloud your judgment and cloud your reaction.
Well, no, I think you're right. I mean, there's two ways to escape to safety from a fire, and you got to understand which one it is. Do we need to run away from it, or are we far enough gone that we need to run through the fire to get to the other side?
Yes, sir.
And that's kind of what horse training is. Like, do we want to just back out of it and say, I don't want no trouble, or when trouble happens, do you get swept away with this horse's emotions where he has his fit, or do you just go to the other side and say, I'm here. I'm not scared. I can probably ride. And that's another thing. As a rule of thumb, if a horse is running off, he's probably not going to buck.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every now and then you'll see one take a run and buck, but most of the time that's a more seasoned trained to that thing, like they've learned how to do it. I have very few horses that really buck. And it's not that they're not capable of doing it. It's just my approach to it. If I can get one to run off, I've kind of got them. Mm-hmm. And then, like, they run off for a minute, and you steer them, and then that forward motion is such a – like, if you can get a colt to stretch out and go forward, you've kind of got them. And so I kind of – when a colt does go to leave, that's a good thing for me because now, hey, he's probably not going to try me right here.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for me to ride one that's running off than it is one that's sure enough trying to buck you off. It's a lot more pleasant.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you can kind of lean up over their neck and you can go get those colts to do so many good things. And they don't even know that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But the experience was good. Just through letting that forward motion be your friend and not being afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to be in control when things are a little bit out of control. Just through your mindset.
And I think having that approach is so critical. Like going over to Casey Mitchell's and riding and just kind of watching him. Because there'll be sometimes like, hey, what are you doing today? He's like, well, I'm just riding a couple horses, and I like just going and watching. I'm not like those guys that understand what they're watching,
Yeah.
but I figure if I just watch them long enough, I'll pick something up. And just watching his approach, like kind of like how you were talking about, like you or Nick, like just how calm and collected, and just they're just chill guys. It's a popular meme going on. There's a couple chill guys.
Yeah.
But like just watching him horseback, and he'll sit there and think for a while and just look at the horse. And his approach, one thing that I really like is he really likes having a really loose rein. So if I just like, if we're just trotting or just really anything, if I treat that horse like he's broke, chances are he's going to act like that. Like giving him that opportunity and having that approach to give him that opportunity. And
Sure. Yeah. You know, as you try and learn, if you have more interest in learning, when somebody that's working a horse gets still, they probably, or maybe even they pet him on the neck or whatever, that's probably a release. And that, if you're a little uncertain, like, that's the time to ask.
Yes, sir.
Not when they're loping around or working or holding. You know, a lot of times people mistime their questions. When somebody gets still, you can ask, so
what'd he do?
what did you like about that right there?
Yes, sir.
And then they can tell you probably in about 3 sentences, and you'll go, oh, yeah, I guess I did see that. And then all of a sudden you're training your mind to go, now I don't even have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to watch for the release. Watch the pressure, watch the release, and then watch that horse's mannerisms, eyes, ears, mouth,
Yes, sir.
tail, and you can just watch that horse, again, start training themselves just because they crave the release. Horses are by their nature lazy if we'll let them be. You know, like you can use that to your advantage. They want to be still, maybe sit in a cool place with some fresh water and maybe a little something to eat. That's where they're happy. So you just try and say, give me this, and I'll give you that. Mm-hmm. And it just gets, that's where it really gets to be. That's where you start leveling up. It's when you start understanding that you're just, it's everything you do is basic. It's just the timing of the release is the most important thing. And that's what we all, anybody that's competitive, that's what we work on. It's pressure and release. Just like starting a colt in the show pen's the same. It's pressure and release that gets them to go mark a 75, you know. Good pressure, good release.
What one thing I've always appreciated about our family, our whole family, is our foundation and our faith. And as I kind of stated it towards the beginning, the verse this year that I'm kind of calling my verse, right, or the verse that I'm always repeating to myself is Proverbs 21:31.
Okay.
And it says, the horse is prepared for the day of battle, but victory comes from the Lord. And I thought it fit pretty good today because you're always preparing your horse, right? And I say the horse is in whatever you want it to be, whether that is your horse or it's your business, your mindset, your mentality, all those things. Preparing, the effort in preparing is important, but knowing, I think it's cool that our family does have that foundation in faith, knowing
100%.
that
I mean,
victory does come from the Lord.
All our successes, you know, every good and perfect gift comes from the Lord. And look at the successes this family have had. I think they're blessings, you know, from trying to, not that we always do right, but as a whole, our family wants to do the right thing. We're gonna try and be honest. We're gonna try and do the right thing in business, do the right thing by our animals. And if you do things God's way, you know, things are probably going to be okay because He is in control.
Yeah,
you know. So I think that's exactly right.
you have a verse or a chapter or one that you like.
Yeah, we visited about it before. Kind of the one that came to mind is 2 Peter 3:8, and it says, you know, forget not this one thing, that one day with the Lord is as 1,000 years to man. And you know, and I would encourage anyone to read that whole chapter. It's so interesting.
Say what chapter it is again?
2 Peter 3. You know, there's so much that we don't understand about God laying the foundations of the earth and so on and so forth. And some of that I have to just be okay to be ignorant about. I don't understand. I have the faith to, you know, but that carries me through where I don't understand. But His omnipotence is so incredible. Like when we think about the passage of time, how we see it and how God sees it, it's in two different dimensions completely. And so I think a lot of times we try and bring God into where like He fits inside our box. Well, you can't put Him in a box, you know. We'll never understand the broadness of his perfection. And I think, that verse just kind of helps you think about that a 1,000 years to us, it's like a day to him.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to go reread 2 Peter
it's
chapter
good.
3.
It's good. And Peter, he was a layman. He was a fisherman. He's just a simple guy. At one point after Jesus' crucifixion, Peter's like, I'm just going to go back to fishing. He's just a simple man. And I can resonate with simplicity because I'm borderline stupid, really. But
I'm not borderline. I am.
way up there.
Oh, well, that was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed having you on, Myles.
Man, I enjoyed it too. We covered a good little array of topics there.
Yeah, we could have trotted a few miles.
Yeah.
You have a Bible verse, Tucker? Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out. I thought you were looking. I thought you were looking it up. My bad.
No, just I like to end it with that Proverbs 21:31. Just kind of been my. I don't know. The more I say it, the more I like it.
What is the one in Proverbs where it's a bridle for the horse, a whip for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back? Every now and then I need a rod upside the head.
Tucker's got me going on Proverbs.
It's excellent.
Oh, Proverbs.
Yeah, Tucker's
It's so
got me
full of
hooked
wisdom,
on it.
man.
So much.
It's so good. Willie, anything else?
No, actually, I couldn't remember the verse. I had to look it up. Just put it out there.
Okay.
But when we were talking about, cattle move a lot better when they're looking forward. And they move pretty slow when they have to keep looking back. And if you keep pushing them from the back, anyways, that doesn't matter. But, we're not that much different. Like, if we just keep looking forward, and we're going to move a lot quicker.
Too.
I think that's in Proverbs.
Also.
And it's in Luke, where it was like, I was trying to remember, because I remember we went to that church in Anson, and they were talking about looking back on your past, and it was something like, someone that puts their hand to the plow, but keeps looking back is not fit for God's kingdom. And I was trying to figure out which one it was. Well, it's in Luke 9, and I just thought that was a good correlation there. We got to be a little bit, in that sense, we got to be a little bit more like cattle. We move a lot better if we're always looking forward and not looking back.
Yeah, cattle and horses aren't the only things that have herd instinct.
Yes, sir.
And it can be a good thing and a bad thing for us.
Yeah.
It depends on what herd you're running with.
True.
It's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Who you are is who you'll become, or who
Yes,
you hang
sir.
out with. That's who you'll become. So you need to be careful.
The one that Donald loves, that my dad loves so much about looking forward, is Philippians 3:14. I've got it marked. It says, "I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Jesus Christ." And so that's like keeping your eyes on the goal, on looking forward.
No,
that one.
I like what Myles
It's
just
hard
said,
to
too.
go forward.
Yeah.
Back. That
It
is
really is. You should try it sometime.
I wonder
Doesn't work out.
I wonder if the Lord sometimes, like, we're that cult that he's like, hey, just run off, quit bucking, quit
Run off
fighting
a
me,
little bit.
run off a little, move forward,
Yep.
run off a little bit.
Just take that's, as a Christian, a lot of times, just take the next step. You don't have to know what the step after that is, but just take the next step. And a lot of times that's just a simple, it doesn't seem like it'd take that much faith, but just just one more step, and then the next step. I think a lot of times we get to trying to think way too far out ahead, and then we'll look way back, and we won't focus on just the next step. We're talking about training futurity horses. That's as good advice. Just do what that horse needs that day. If you'll do that enough days in a row, you'll have a competitive horse. And if he's not competitive, he'll be a useful citizen to somebody for something.
Yes, sir.
And that's the goal. Everything you ride needs to be a useful citizen. They can't all win. They need to have a place.
Yes,
if
sir.
you just keep doing the next thing that horse needs, not what you wish he was doing, what he needs, the next step, you'll be okay.
Yeah, that's good. And it talks about, in the Bible, it talks about how he's the lamp unto our feet, and that lamp may be just one step visual, like that visualization is just one step.
That's right.
That's good.
That's right.
I can go a long time with that. We need to do this more often, Myles.
I can come back.
It's a pleasant surprise. This is actually one of my
good.
favorite podcasts.
Yeah, it's
No,
good.
I'm not just saying
What
that
are you
because you're
saying? You
here.
didn't think it'd be worth a darn?
I mentioned it at the beginning.
I was
Like,
getting
think
nervous.
people
I
are
was
gonna
like,
be
I really
surprised.
hope Myles talks because we've had conversations because I first met you during the fires and I really enjoyed it, and I was like, I really hope we can get some of those conversations because
Well,
I had a good time.
thank you. I did too. Thank y'all for having me.
Hey, good. Glad to have you here for the sale this coming week.
Glad to be here. It's going to be good. Hopefully we can do everything that so much the public desires as far as coming and getting the ranch experience, and not too many horses. It's a 35 head of horses. There's only a limited number, but we're pleased with the quality. We're represented through multiple disciplines.
Yeah.
Ranching, cutting, roping, cow horse. If it's not in here, you probably don't need it.
Yeah. Tell us about a couple of the horses. I know this is at the end, but what are the couple of the horses that you personally have in the sale, you and your wife?
I've got the most of anybody. I've got 6 I'm riding through. I'm leading a brood mare through, so 7. I've got a 5-year-old gelding I trained for my wife that she won her division of the Snaffle Bit Futurity on, Rolls Royce gelding, that her folks, Jay and Shelley Hall, raised. That's just a gentle, just a good horse.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of fit anybody. He'll work a cow, run stop a little bit. He's a big horse. Would make a good head horse. He's
Good citizen, huh?
He's a good citizen. He's a good citizen.
I like that.
You can do. I mean, I think if for some reason you had to go get a gun and go chase something, shoot it, he may not like it, but he'd let you do it. And that's how I want my horses to be. They don't have to like it, but they need to say yes, sir, enough to let me do what I need to do.
Yes, sir.
And then I've got a full sister to Here Comes a Boone, who won some blue boone out of a mare I own named Stay Out of My Shorts. That was the NRCHA 2019 Dam of the Year. That was a real blessing to me and my family. And a really good broodmare candidate, bred, in my opinion, is really as good as you could ask one to be. I trained her for the futurity, made the finals on her. She's a good horse. She's good to ride. And I think for somebody, she could be the backbone of a pretty impressive breeding program. And I flushed and froze some embryos out of her, so I'm kind of getting to have my cake and eat it too.
Yes, sir.
I'll keep her genetics around, through those embryos. But when you want the sale to work, you've got to sell good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. Nobody wants to sell their good ones.
Yeah.
But that's the nature
Yes,
of the
sir.
business. Yeah.
It is.
And then I got a couple 2-year-olds and a couple 3-year-olds that I feel like are good horses. They got potential and they got a good start. Just a little bit of a good program, and I think they'll go on and do well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you can't make this sale, question, are we going to have the pod out before this?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll have it out by Monday.
All right.
Monday.
I'll make it, or even tomorrow.
Listen to this on the way to the sale on Tuesday.
There you go.
Yep. Even better, I'll have it out on Monday or tomorrow night, so that'll be Sunday. If you're listening to this now, I'll hustle.
Hustling. Yeah.
As long as we're not too busy at the ranch tomorrow, I'm sure we can find time.
I'll make sure.
Bet.
Yeah. We have, thanks again, Myles. That was fun.
Thank you for having me.
Got a little crowd. Myles Brown.
Thanks, guys.
Man, that was fun. Thanks for listening to another. What episode is this?
This would be Justin McHugh's 25, and then after that we had 26, 27. I believe this is 28.
28. Episode 28.
Yes, sir.
Of the Registered Ranching Podcast.
Yes, sir.
Check us out. If you haven't given us a 5-star review, do so. It helps us out a lot. I guess you ought to be honest with your review. I just hope it's a 5-star one.
Now, I know I just said you got to remove emotion out of the equation, but I'll bring that emotion in if you leave anything less than 5 stars. That's a Walmart guarantee.
We're going to look you up.
I'll look you up. I'll find you.
Of course you are. Check out the YouTube channel. We're always showing what we're doing. A lot of what we're doing.
Everything we're doing pretty much. It's documented.
Is my sound not working?
Where's the music?
That's sad.
Whoa! There we go.
I just had it turned down on my phone.
Do I need to sing a song?
You gonna be a singer too?
Do you want to sing? Amarillo by morning.
One of his favorites. Thanks for listening to the Registered Ranching Podcast. Tucker Brown, Willie Wardle, and a big thanks to Myles Brown for joining us today. Come see us at the sale. Say hello. I'll give you a big high five.
The biggest
listen to the pod. Yep. And if you say you did get a 5-star review, I'll give you 2 high fives. If you don't, Willie will hunt you down.
I'll find you.
Hey, you've been listening to the Registered Ranching Podcast. We love you, but don't forget, y'all stay classy.
And ranch on them.
And ranch on them. See y'all. God bless.